Meet your new go-to for a fresh and inclusive approach to health.
Wellness Rebranded is the pod where a dietitian, a personal trainer, and a mental health therapist combine perspectives to help you redesign your relationship with food, fitness, and your feelings.
Whether we're serving up juicy stories, breaking down the latest research, or dropping practical tips, we'll leave you informed, inspired, and ready to take health-promoting action.
We get you because we are you.
We've joined forces because we know that health isn't one-dimensional, and neither are you.
Tune in for real talk that cuts through the wellness and diet culture hype. Stay for the laughs, the insights, and the feel-good vibes. Hey guys, it's Elizabeth. I am here with Tara today. We are missing Maria, sadly, but we're coming in hot with a really relevant topic for the holidays, and we want to chat about navigating holiday food and body talk. And specifically, I would say unhealthy, unwanted, toxic food and body talk, right?
Yeah. It's so common for this to happen over the holidays because we're all together, we're all sitting at the same table, there's lots of food there. Oftentimes it's like a little bit more indulgent than we might normally eat. So it's just kind of like an easy thing to chat about amongst people. And we're here to tell you that we don't want anyone to be doing that.
Well, also, I feel like it's like the time of year, right? Not only is all that happening, but it's also ramping up to January when everyone and their brother is pushing a diet or
Yes.
that crazy toxic get in shape for the new year, new you kind of thing. And it just kind of
Yeah.
is like this perfect storm. Oh, and also let's not forget, you might be with like Aunt Sally, who you never see, that's like been commenting on your body since you were 7 kind of thing. So
Right.
you're also around people that may or may not be supportive in that way, I guess, is a way to say it nicely.
Yeah, and I feel like having the different generations there, like, it was appropriate,
Yeah.
in different generations to comment on bodies, and I feel like the later generations have kind of taken a stand and said, "Hey, we don't talk about the way my body looks," right?
Mhm.
And so some of the older generation maybe hasn't gotten the memo yet, and as
Such
much as I don't necessarily want it to be our job to teach them, like, we have to set appropriate boundaries.
That's such a great point. I vividly remember a comment. I still remember to this day. I mean, it was easily 30, 35 years ago, but I remember a comment that my grandmother made about my body, which didn't happen to me a ton growing up, probably because I have the privilege of growing up in a smaller body, but nonetheless, like that has stuck with me for 35 years. Like it's seared into my memory.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, like how we remember things that happen in childhood. I'm sure I have examples too, but I remember vividly one of my brother's teachers calling him like a doughhead at one point, and I was kind of like, what? Like, that's a child. And
Yeah.
like, it's been however many years, 30 years since that happened. And I still remember it. And it wasn't even about me.
Hmm.
Like we need to be really careful because like people are listening, especially
Yeah.
our like youth. Our kids are listening to us.
They are listening and those things go deep, right? And sometimes they're I guess purposefully harmful and sometimes people think they're well intended or like helpful, but they're
Yeah.
not. And sometimes people are just uninformed, right?
Yeah.
Or like as you said, it's a different generation, different time, different, norms change.
I
Right.
do try to give a lot of like compassion to people that maybe just don't know and they're coming from a place of like I'm trying to be helpful. Like I get it. It's not helpful and I'll set that boundary and make sure that they know that that's the way that I feel about my body and I don't appreciate people commenting on it. But like I do understand that it's coming from a place of love sometimes, you know.
Yeah, perhaps misguided, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Totally.
So
Totally
maybe
misguided.
yeah, what?
Totally misguided.
Yeah. So maybe it would be helpful if we went through some specific scenarios, because I think one thing to underscore is that some of this conversation and narrative and talk is so normalized that we might not even immediately, depending where you are in your intuitive eating journey or your food and body journey, you may not even realize that it's toxic diet culture talk, or that it's harmful or unhelpful. So I thought maybe if we went through some specific scenarios that might be really eye-opening. So the first one that comes to mind for me is just like sitting at the holiday table and people talking about, choosing the healthier foods, or like staying away from that bad food or that
Mhm.
guilty pleasure, or just kind of like that good versus bad mentality around the foods that are at the holiday spread.
That always surprises me when people like at Thanksgiving especially, because I'm like, the main dish here is turkey. Like, it's mostly protein and it's very low fat. Like, why did this get such a bad rap,
Well, I think it's
instead of
probably the
good
sides, right? The
snack?
mashed potatoes with the cream and the butter, and the sweet potato casserole with the marshmallows and the brown sugar, and
Yes.
the green bean casserole with the cream of mushroom soup or whatever. Like, I think it stems more from the sides than the turkey.
Yes.
But and also people feeling like, I just had someone ask me yesterday, actually, in a client session, he said, "Do you have any advice for me at Thanksgiving?" And, I kind of shared whatever I shared. I think actually the very first thing was like, don't save up your calories for Thanksgiving. And he said, "Oh my gosh, like, you mean I shouldn't?" He's like, "Normally I wouldn't eat for 2 days, and then I would like eat the entire carrot cake on Thanksgiving Day." And I was like, "Yeah, we can shift that by continuing to eat even day of, have breakfast, have
Yeah.
lunch, thing." But oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. But then I don't know. He said something about the desserts, and I was trying to reframe it for him and share
Mhm.
why it was important. But all foods can fit. We've said it a lot of times.
Yes, for sure. I personally look forward to all the foods on Thanksgiving.
Me too, but I'm pretty picky about them. I definitely have them the way I like them.
Yes, same. I have a couple things where I'm like, okay, so here's my example. I'll give the second example in this,
Okay.
scenarios thing. So my mom, I don't know why she's doing this, and mom, if you're listening, I don't know why you do this, but she tries to like healthify everything.
Mm,
And I feel like if you're doing this in your day-to-day life and you genuinely enjoy the food that way, then great,
mhm.
enjoy. But for Thanksgiving, we have like family traditions, right? Like we have mashed potatoes that are actually potatoes, you know, things like that. And my mom would be the one to do like mashed cauliflower, sprinkle like chia seeds on it for extra omegas or whatever, and everything that she brings will be kind of like changed in some way. Like, oh, I made the pumpkin pie, but I used fat free, sugar free. And here it's going to be delicious and good for our waistlines. So she'll like sneak the diet culture in there while simultaneously ruining the food. So my solution, I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year. So my solution this year is I've delegated her to make the things that I don't like and I'm not going to eat anyway. So if she healthifies it, it won't be my problem.
That's an awesome solution. I love it. And full disclosure, I'm sure if any of my family is listening, they probably are thinking back to a time in my life when I would have been that person, healthifying, quote unquote, every single recipe. And
I've
yeah,
definitely done it myself too.
sorry about that. I mean, and I feel like a disclaimer, right? Because it's not all or nothing. I think that there are sometimes like gentle tweaks you can make to boost the
Absolutely.
nutrient density, or, make it a more nutritious choice. But when it's everything, and when it takes away from the dish and it comes with a side of comments that aren't helpful, then yeah, probably not such a good idea. But if it's, like switching butter for olive oil and no one's going to notice anyway, why
Totally.
not? Or, I make my stuffing with whole grain, this really awesome whole grain bread from a local bakery. Uh,
Ooh,
I
that's
know.
good. I
Yeah.
think the line in the sand for me is don't do that on Thanksgiving because that's like the traditional meals for
Yeah.
me, right? Like, I love all the things. And if we just like change them all and made them all like so different now, it's not only is it like a food swap, but it's like an emotional thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really important point. Okay, what's my next example? I mean, we sort of touched on it, but people making comments about your body shape or size at the holiday. Um,
Mhm.
super duper unhelpful, like, oh, you've put on weight, or frankly, even you've lost weight, which somebody may be saying is like they think that's a compliment, right? But it's just
Yes.
highlighting that they're focusing on your body and highlighting bringing your body to the forefront of your attention that day. And also,
Side note, check out our episode on rethinking weight loss compliments.
oh, yeah.
Goes right along with that.
Great plug there, Tara. And or also comments on what you're eating, right? Like I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I ate that many carbs, I'd be as big as a house. Or do you know how many calories are in that apple pie kind of thing? S-
Yeah.
Not welcome, probably, and I don't think helpful.
Agreed. My example was gonna be, like, commenting on what's on your plate, you
Hmm.
know? We all have different tastes, we all have different preferences, like, what somebody else is eating is none of my business, and what you're eating is none of anybody else's business, so, like, put what's on your plate that you would like to enjoy and enjoy it.
Hmm.
And if you wanna comment on somebody else's plate, don't. Think of
Yeah.
something else to comment on.
Yeah. Yeah. Compare football teams.
Yes.
Um, another example that comes to mind for me is just like the guilt talk about kind of what people might be eating. Like, oh my gosh, I ate so much. I feel so bad. I feel so guilty. Or I totally ruined my diet this morning with that breakfast. Or, I'm gonna have to go to the gym extra hard tomorrow to make up
Mhm.
for what I ate today. Like all that sort of guilt-inducing, shame-evoking conversation is another, I think, pretty clear example of negative holiday talk.
I see a lot of this at the gym, actually. Fun fact, the busiest day of the year at the gym is Thanksgiving morning.
Really?
Everybody comes to the gym
More
except
than
for
January 2nd?
yes. Weirdly, I feel like we've had a massive decline in like New Year's resolutioners. So January is not that crazy anymore, but like fall, September, October, November are slammed in the gym. And Thanksgiving Day is usually super, super, super busy. And the gym feeds into it, right? Like, come burn off your calories so you can eat the turkey and that kind of stuff. Usually, like the moms that are cooking aren't there.
Yeah.
So it's everybody else that's in the gym, but it's actually a really fun day to be in the gym because there's a lot of energy, everybody's jovial and, like, excited, but
Yeah.
it's definitely, like, full of diet culture because everyone is talking about, getting ready to earn their meal, that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And I think it's like such a great opportunity to chat about, somebody out there might be listening and thinking, but what's so wrong about exercising on Thanksgiving Day? Like, why does it feel like we're putting a negative slant on that? And I think it's important to state that we're not. It's you can choose to exercise on Thanksgiving for two very different reasons, right? One of them can be about having to earn the food that's on your plate and it's very restrictive and rigid and it's going to cause you guilt or stress or shame if you don't get your workout in. And that is a very, perhaps more unhealthy relationship with movement or food or your body versus I, for example, I'm not always able to, but and it's because of the hosting element of it. I host Thanksgiving every year. Often it's 20 or 30 people at my house or more. I love getting in a workout on Thanksgiving morning because it's the way that I carve out a little bit of time for myself before the chaos of the day sets in. And frankly, it makes me happy. I do it while I'm watching the Thanksgiving Day parade on TV, or maybe I get like a little bit of outside that day if I go for a walk before I start cooking and I know I'm probably not going to get outside the rest of the day because I'm going to be inside cooking. So often there's so much nuance in the conversation around having a healthy relationship with food or movement or intuitive eating. And it often comes back to the intention behind the choice. So I wouldn't want anyone to think that, we're saying don't exercise on Thanksgiving, that that's a bad thing, but consider
Yeah.
your intention behind it.
I actually love working on Thanksgiving morning. Just being in the gym, like the environment is really fun. Oftentimes I'll do like a free class for people, like Tara's turkey tabata party or something,
Mhm.
just like for fun because it's nice to move your body and it's Thursday. We work out on Thursdays, like It doesn't really have anything to do with what's coming later. It just has to do with like making a, choice that makes your body feel good now,
Yeah,
you
doing something
know?
enjoyable. And
Yeah.
speaking of that, sort of like having fun and highlighting a positive approach to movement, you have something cool happening this month.
Yes, I do. So you've heard me talk about this before, where I have the ultimate health and fitness assessment. It's like this 3 hour long thing where I assess all the different components of fitness, everything from balance and your posture to like your 1 rep max on squats and deadlifts. Like it runs the gamut. That's why it takes so long, is because it's really comprehensive. And I'm doing my very first group assessment December 5th. So I'm doing that in the first Saturday in December, and it's going to be awesome. And you guys should all come. I'll put the link to join in the comment in the show notes. So hopefully I'll see some of you there. And the idea behind this is just to like assess where you are so that you can kind of tweak your workouts moving forward to more align with your goals. It's not like a new year, new you thing. It's just, it's December. We're going to assess and learn about our bodies and then make healthy choices moving forward.
Yeah, love it. So I was thinking of another potential way, that sneaky way actually, that diet culture shows up at the holidays, which is like pressure. So it could be pressure to like eat things, right? People
Mhm.
pushing food at you, or pressure not to eat things, or
Yep.
pressure around your movement choices, or pressure about what you are or aren't wearing. Like I think those are some sneaky ways that diet culture can creep up at the
Yeah,
holiday.
I agree. One way that I kind of have seen it before is like the pressure to go for a walk after the meal.
Mhm.
I love walking. I will walk anytime, day or night. Love it, love it. I don't know that I love like eating a really good meal and then wanting to go walk right after, but I will because it's the family and everybody's going together and we walk along the water and it's beautiful. But it does often come with, well, we need to work off this meal. You
Yeah.
know, kind of the messaging is wrong. The activity is right, the messaging is wrong.
Right. The activity can be right. Okay, so how about if we shift into sharing some tips about how, because I mean, all right, there's so many ways that diet culture can show up in your holiday, when diet culture ruins the holidays. But what can we do about it? I know it's something that I spend a lot of time this chatting about with clients this time of year. And one thing that immediately comes to mind for me is setting boundaries around food and body talk ahead of time. And I would also shout out last week's episode about boundaries because it's awesome. And we'll give lots and lots of tips. But think about, are there specific people that run into a sort of challenge around the way they talk about food and body, either your body, their body, anyone else's body, or anyone else's eating, they're eating, you're eating? Are there specific people? And if so, consider setting a boundary with them ahead of time. And have you ever had to do that, Tara?
So I've never personally done this, mostly just because I'm a wuss and I hate confrontation. So I'm not great at boundaries. But I had just yesterday, a client came in and was like, oh, we had our like family Thanksgiving this past weekend. And we were at someone's house and they said, hey, before you even get here, just know that we are not going to talk about politics at all. It's not
Ah,
coming up. And somebody insisted on like bringing it up and I guess was like kind of aggressive about it. And
uh-huh.
literally people left the meal because they were so upset about the, conversation. And then the people that stayed were just super awkward after. And they were just kind of like, well, I don't know, like everything was really weird. So I think like setting that boundary ahead of time and making it really super clear that if you bring it up, we're going to not tolerate that. Like I think it's helpful.
Yeah, I agree. So that's like a very concrete thing, like say ahead of time, hey, we're not talking about food or weight or making comments on what people are eating at, this meal. Know that
Mhm.
ahead of time. I think it also can be really helpful to kind of have responses prepared. So one thing
Yes.
I often share with people is, and you can give a reason, if it's grandma and grandpa that are always making those comments and you're trying to set a different tone for your kids, you can reach out to them ahead of time and say, hey, we're really mindful about supporting our kids to have a happy, healthy relationship with food. Here's how you can help. Please don't talk about XYZ. Uh,
Yes.
and otherwise, we're super excited for you to be here. It could also be if it comes up, then I think it's an opportunity to say something like, I'm not comfortable with diet talk. Let's change the conversation. What do you think of these holiday decorations?
Yeah. I love the idea of like, oh, I'm not going to talk about like food and diet culture at this meal. I prefer to keep the focus on fun and family and, celebration.
Yeah.
Just like have something ready to go so that you're not like panicking because I feel like when I get in situations like that, I always feel so shocked like, wow, I can't believe that person said that. That's super rude. And then I don't say anything and I'm just like, "Mm, okay." Or I'm like too aggressive about it. You
Uh-huh.
know?
Yeah.
I think having something planned like, "Oh, I don't talk about other people's bodies or what other people are eating. Let's talk about, like, the family and the traditions," or whatever. Having
Yeah.
that ready is helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And sometimes, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, a simple changing the conversation, right? Just like, oh my gosh, who's winning the game goes
Mhm.
a long way. Just in one ear, out the other, and redirect the conversation. Hopefully, the person will get the hint, especially, unfortunately, if you have
Totally.
to do it more than once.
Yeah.
Um, and then I also just think highlighting the positive. Like there's so many more interesting things to talk about than what the scale says. Like
Yes.
let's change the subject.
Yes.
Are all some helpful things.
So I'm like real introverted. And even though I can easily chat with others, it always makes me a little nervous going into like an event where I may not know very many people and need to have conversations with them. So years ago, my husband was a teacher
Mhm.
and we would go to these like after work happy hours. And I would sit there while all the teachers around me talk about nothing but their students at school. So I couldn't really like participate in the conversation. And I would look up like what are like 10 things that are current events in the world today that could be interesting conversation starters. So I
Mhm.
had this little like mental checklist in my mind of like what we could chat about if things were not going a way that I found to be interesting. And I think it's helpful to do that for Thanksgiving too. Like if the conversation gets steered in a weird direction, like, how are you celebrating Christmas this year? Oh, look at the football game. Where are you shopping for Black Friday?
Yeah.
What's on your Christmas list? Like questions
Yeah.
like that to just like change the subject completely and quickly be really
Yeah.
helpful.
I think another good tip is also to think about the boundaries you're setting for yourself with social media and holiday dieting ads. Like they're definitely going to start ramping up now. And it's a great time to do a diet culture detox and go clean out your social media feed, unfollow, block, mute all the people who are, pushing the diet talk and the new you and the weight loss and the before and after images, unsubscribe from those advertisements you get from various weight loss companies. Like look at the things that are coming at you and see which ones you can easily and quickly or intentionally get rid of.
I actually do this every year on Black Friday when we get the mass emails from everyone who's ever had your email address. And I like reassess every single one if it's something that I still would find value from, or if it's something that I'm done with. Like I am liberal with that unsubscribe button. So
Mhm.
I make sure that I'm looking at things that are going to support my values. And if it doesn't, it's out of here.
Yeah, I love that. You sound like a hardcore about that.
Yeah, because I get like I'm one of those that's like a little stressed with a lot of emails in my inbox, whereas my husband will have like 10,000 unread emails and it doesn't bother him at all. For me, if there's like 3, I'm like, "Ooh, gotta deal with those." So I don't want the junk coming in. If I can avoid it, I'm gonna do that. So I am pretty hardcore about that.
You definitely would not want to see my email inbox then. Another tip that I have is to take diet culture free breaks during the holiday meal or gathering. And what I mean by that is If you're feeling triggered by conversations or things that people are saying, take a break. Like you can get up and walk away. It's a great time to excuse yourself and go to the bathroom or to get up and go, clean your plate and just sort of remind yourself that you don't have, like I always give the example, people maybe have heard me say it before. We're all stuck in the storm of diet culture and we may not be able to change the weather, but we can make sure we have the right gear. And one of those, like one piece of gear is your ability to remove yourself from the situation.
Yes. I love that phrase.
Mm-hmm.
I love that phrase. Yeah, I find that I do that quite a bit. If I'm just like overwhelmed, overstimulated, I don't like the conversation, like I'm going to go do something with my son. I'm going to, pretend that he needs his face wiped or
Kids, I
something.
was going to say, kids are a great excuse for really when you want to get out of anything, right?
Yeah, totally. Like I'll go to the bathroom, I'll check on something in the kitchen. Like
Yeah.
I'm good at not being like corralled into one spot.
Yeah. I think another thing that is a great response, I can't remember if we said this in our boundary conversation last week, and I'm going back a tip earlier of just like when someone says something that's really out of line to just say like, wow, I can't believe you said that.
Yes, we did say that last week, but
Okay.
always a good reminder.
Okay.
Like, wow, what a weird thing to say out loud.
Yeah, exactly. Like make them uncomfortable.
Yes. I feel like if we would all kind of like get on board and do that to the people that are being inappropriate, like the world would change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Slowly
100%.
but surely, it would happen.
Yeah. So my next couple of tips I actually really love. So the next one is just going inward to reframe the holidays as a time for nourishment, not restriction in your own mind, and also not overindulgence, right? The holidays
Yeah.
are just like, can we be neutral about them? Yes, there's delicious foods, enjoy them without guilt, without stress, but they also don't have to be an excuse to kind of treat your body in a way that's not going to feel good afterwards. And so I think that that can be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I know, like, when I was growing up, I was a very picky eater, which probably was like diet culture
Mhm.
that I just tried to pretend like I was picky, but really it was just restriction. And so I remember actively not liking Thanksgiving food. Any food on Thanksgiving, I was like not about it. So I would
Yeah.
like pick at my plate and then I would like leave the meal feeling normal while everyone around me was like, "Oh, I'm so full." And I think like for me, like not undernourishing or not overnourishing is like a really nice middle ground to live in. Even if it
Yeah.
is a holiday, it's not like we're not gonna have leftovers. You can
And
always
really
go
like,
back if you need more.
yeah, and remembering the spirit of the holiday, like it is to nourish your body and your soul. And
Yes.
it can be a time of balance and joy and also listening to your body with practice. So if you're not quite there yet, it's okay, but it's something to work towards.
I
So,
think going along with that, being like mindful about your food is
mm,
really helpful. There are many times when I eat and I'm like, wow, I can't even remember eating that thing.
yeah.
So like slowing down a little and like savoring like the texture, the taste, the temperature, the smell, like all of the things with the food. Like, what better time to do that than at the holidays?
So exactly the opposite of what I was doing when we first logged onto this Zoom call and I was stuffing Rice Crisps in my telling you with my mouth full, like, hang on, I gotta finish eating. I definitely was not slowing down and I just was poking them in.
Yeah, same, but like
It
10
happened.
minutes before we got on.
So another idea that I have is to create a holiday food piece toolkit.
Love
Saving
it.
best for last here. And what I mean by that is before the holidays really kick into full swing, you can kind of prepare a toolkit for yourself to support your mental and emotional well-being, which will help you navigate some of these triggering conversations and triggering situations. And that might include affirmations or mantras that really resonate with you. Maybe it's like some journal prompts that you can spend time with before, you go to your holiday gathering or afterwards. Maybe it includes like your favorite playlist of really empowering songs. Maybe it's even like your list of books that you like reading, like body kindness comes to mind for me, that, you want to like poke through that time of year, or maybe it's like podcasts you like listening to, shameless plug for
Hi,
Wellness
it's us.
Rebranded. Hello, me. But think about like maybe it's like meditation practices that you want to, really commit to over the holidays. And also maybe you just want to create, I heard this idea somewhere and I think it's a great one and I think it applies here, but like a joy list, just things that a collection of things that make you happy and bring you joy, whether it's your favorite foods or your favorite hobbies or your favorite place to go for a walk or special people you really enjoy spending time with, or like little quotes that lift you up. Like what are some things like that can go in your toolbox? And also, before I forget, I have something super cool that I've been working on behind the scenes that I have never created anything like this before, and I cannot wait to share it with you guys. It's an intuitive eating starter kit, and essentially it's if you're at the beginning of your journey or you've been at this and you just feel like you're getting stuck, you can buy this starter kit that I've put together for $29, and it is worth so much more than that. Honestly,
Sounds like a steal.
I don't do anything kind of that isn't gonna, I put my all into everything. So in it, you'll find, oh my gosh, the first one is like getting started and facing your fears. Like it's scary to move away from diet culture, and I'm going to walk you through facing some of those fears. There's resources in there to help you tune into hunger and fullness. There's a replay of a masterclass about like how to stop shooting all over yourself in your food choices. And then there's a resource about mindful eating and a mindful eating checklist and a check-in card for your hunger and fullness. Like there really are some great things in here. It's only $29. So if you are looking to gift yourself a little holiday gift, check that out. I'll make sure we put a link to it in the show notes.
Love that.
Yeah. What would you put in your holiday food piece toolkit?
So much like your joy list, I have like a gratitude list. So
Uh-huh.
whenever I'm feeling like, you know, maybe like things aren't going that great for me, or if I didn't like the situation I was just in and I have some like, emotions about it, like I very quickly am like, okay, I'm so grateful to have my health. I'm so grateful to have whatever. And I list off like 5 things like rapid fire to remind myself that like actually the world's not ending.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I think something that I share with clients a lot is like do a body gratitude list. Like, I'm so glad that, I have eyes that let me take in that sunset today, or I'm so glad,
yes,
I have hands that let me make my favorite recipe, or I'm so glad that I have arms and I can hug, my grandma or my kid.
I have
So,
like a really great Instagram post, if I do say so myself, um, of like all the things that your body can do,
uh-huh.
and everybody's body, not
Oh,
just
I know
mine.
exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
Actually, I love that post.
it is good.
Yeah, it's very moving.
So, like, if you need a little inspo, I think I even have it pinned on my Instagram page because I like it that much. And it just reminds us that we're like so much more than our appearance, you know?
Yeah.
Like our
Yeah.
bodies are great at doing things, like using your eyes to see the sunset. Like how beautiful is that?
Yeah. It reminds me, speaking of what you're saying about you pinned that, it was reminding me of a quote that I have pinned on my Instagram, and it says, "The peace you're searching for does not come from shrinking your body. It comes from freeing yourself of the belief that the smallest version of you is the best version of you." And
Oh,
so many people have reached out and kind of like shared their thoughts when they've read that and how powerful it was. So
mm,
give myself a plug there too, since
yeah. Did you write that quote or where'd that come from?
it actually
Elizabeth Harris. Listen to you.
secret poet. All right, I think we've covered tons of stuff. What's a final takeaway or word of wisdom you want to leave people with, Tara?
Well, one thing I think we should make like our empowering playlist and share that with people because
Me too. I
I
was
have
thinking
some
the same
songs
thing.
that I think would be awesome on that.
Yes.
But anyway, maybe we'll share that on our Wellness Rebranded Instagram at some point,
Yeah.
right? So, final words of wisdom on diet talk during the holidays. Remember that it's just one day. So, even if it is like a really stressful meal for you and that people aren't minding their own business and, there's some like contention there, like it's one meal, it's one day. even if it's horrible, the next day will be better. So
Yeah.
stay positive.
Yeah, that's great. As always, if something in this conversation resonated with you, we really, really would love to hear it. Tara, Maria, and I personally read and respond to every message we get. So please drop us a note either by email or on Instagram or Facebook and just share what jumped out at you, what's sticking with you. We would love to hear it.
We
Uh,
love hearing from you guys.
I know it does light us up. That's all. That's what we got for you today. Tune in next week for another fun conversation.
Thank you for listening. If you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, you can find me on Instagram at coaching_therapist.
I'm Elizabeth. You can find me at Elizabeth Harris Nutrition or in my Facebook group, Health and Healing with Intuitive Eating.
And I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Tara DeLeon Fitness. Guys, if you loved this episode or any of our other episodes, we would love it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcast. It really, really helps us get the non-diet word out to the rest of the world. So please leave us a review.
Yes, thank you.